What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. It's almost the 2 year anniversary of Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. And pretty much since that album came out, fans have been wondering what's next. Kendrick is someone who stays out of the spotlight until he wants to be in the spotlight. He's not on social media, he doesn't do interviews often, he's a very private person. And so I think that in itself builds anticipation for whatever he's going to do next. And it's pretty much all but confirmed that he'll drop another album sometime in 2017. It's clear that he's been working on it. Today, there was a profile on the New York Times, and I haven't had a chance to read it. I've only been able to see the quotes regarding his next album and, the clues that come with it. And so I wanted to talk about those quotes in particular, kind of break it down and see if I can understand what Kendrick is saying, because Kendrick is someone who he uses words to be powerful, and there's always some kind of meaning within his words. And so one of the things he said about this upcoming album is that it's very urgent, and I decipher that in a way to saying that it's going to be like kind of in the moment. I feel like it's going to be now. But then the following quote kind of throws me off, because like I'm thinking the album is going to be urgent, so that's going to be like maybe a reflection of the times going on right now. But then he says, "To Pimp a Butterfly was addressing the problem. I'm in a space now where I'm not addressing the problem anymore." And so that pretty much says we're not getting another album that's going to be structured like To Pimp a Butterfly. It's not going to have that same level of emotion and pain that Kendrick explored on that album. There will probably be some form of emotion on the album, but it's not going to be centered around his personal feelings and what's going on in the world. Like he's not going to talk about the problems anymore. So does that mean this album is more focused on a solution? Is it going to be a lot happier? I think the next quote puts us in the right direction for where Kendrick's head is at on this album. He says, "We're in a time where we exclude one major component out of this whole thing called life: God. Nobody speaks on it because it's almost in conflict with what's going on in the world when you talk about politics and government and the system." I get what Kendrick is saying there. There aren't very many rappers out there talking about God in their music. Chance is probably the biggest out of everybody that has like a gospel slash God slash Christian type of feel to his music. And that's not saying that Kendrick is going to have a vibe that's like Chance. I don't anticipate anything of the sort, because if you look at Kendrick Lamar, you know that he is his own artist. He always has been and always will be. And so I don't think you can say like he's trying to jump on that type of wave. He's had God in his music throughout the years anyway, so I think this might just be an expanded take on it. But still, it's a very vague statement that doesn't really help us currently understand where Kendrick is going with this album. I don't think it's going to be an album that's 100% centered around God. I think that's just one idea, and it's only like a small clue into what Kendrick has been creating. The other quote that opens up Kendrick Lamar and his mind and lets us know like what he's thinking of when he's crafting this music is it's a longer quote, but I think it's very important to talk about. He said, "This is what goes in my mind as a writer. One day I may have a little girl." And it's a girl in particular. Funny you said that. He was responding to something that the writer had asked him about if he had kids. And he doesn't have kids currently, but he's looking at it from a future aspect. "She's going to grow up. She's going to be a child I adore. I'm going to love her, but she's going to reach that one point where she's going to start experiencing things. She's going to say things or do things that you may not condone. But it's the reality of it. And you know she was always going to get to that place." And it's disturbing because you have to accept it. You have to accept it, and you have to have your own solutions to figure out how to handle the action and take action for it. When I say the little girl, it's the analogy of accepting the moment when she grows up. We love women. We enjoy their company. At one point in time, I may have a little girl who grows up and tells me about her engagements with a male figure. Things that most men don't want to hear. Learning to accept it and not run away from it. That's how I want this album to feel. So basically that is like a full-on analogy. I think the last two lines of that quote are the most important. Learning to accept it and not run away from it. That's how I want this album to feel. So in whatever direction that Kendrick goes in with this album, he wants people to accept it and not run from it. Like the concept and the theme and the music. And I think that kind of quote does apply to like To Pimp a Butterfly. When you think about it, like that album was either critically acclaimed by you or you just didn't get it, you just didn't like it. It was kind of like there was no middle ground. At least that's how I've always seen it. There's always just those two sides, no middle ground. And I think with this album, Kendrick is going to continue to push, himself as an artist and push his creativity in his art. And overall just continue to be an amazing artist with a voice that is necessary in this day and age. And so those quotes, they got me excited. I still have not the slightest clue where Kendrick is headed with this album. I feel like I got just a little glimpse. It's like out of everything that he said in that profile, only a couple things really stood out as something that will translate to when I actually hear the music and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember he was mentioning this and this, and this quote applies to the music now. Like that's hopefully how I'll see the music when it finally does come out. Kendrick Lamar's next album doesn't have a release date, and we don't know anything else besides the quotes that we talked about in this video. Nonetheless, I would like to hear your opinion. What do you think about these quotes? What do you think about Kendrick Lamar's, his ideas? Where do you think he's going on this upcoming album? I'll include a link for the New York Times piece because I definitely want you to read it. I'm going to check it out in full tonight. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Then like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter @SermonsDomain. And as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching. And until next time, peace.